This is Lila. Lila had always hated the dark. As a child, she couldn't sleep unless her bedside lamp was on, and even then, her eyes would dart around the room, tracking shadows that seemed to move on their own. Her parents would laugh, chalking it up to an overactive imagination. "There's nothing there," they'd say, "just your mind playing tricks on you." Years later, as a neuroscience graduate student, Lila decided to prove them right or wrong. She had always been fascinated by fear, especially the kind that creeps in when the lights go out. Why does darkness twist harmless shapes into threats? Why does a creak in the floorboards sound like footsteps when you're alone? She wanted answers. Her thesis revolved around fear response in low-light conditions. She designed an experiment to study how the brain reacts to darkness and ambiguity, using volunteers to sit in pitch-black rooms while hooked to brain-scanning equipment. The results were fascinating. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, lit up like fireworks, even when participants were told there was nothing in the room with them. But what fascinated her more were the interviews. Participants described seeing things, shapes, movement, even faces, despite knowing it was all in their heads. Lila's academic curiosity quickly turned personal. Could the brain's fear mechanisms explain her own lifelong terror? One night, working late in the lab, she decided to test it herself. She sat in the dark, the hum of the equipment her only company. The first few minutes were uneventful, her rational mind assuring her that she was safe. But then came the whispers. At first they were faint, indistinct. Maybe it was the air vent. But as the minutes dragged on, the whispers grew louder, forming words she couldn't quite make out. Her heart raced. She told herself it was her brain misinterpreting the quiet, a phenomenon she'd read about countless times. And then she saw it. A shadow in the corner of the room, tall and still. Her logical mind screamed, but her body didn't care. Every instinct told her to run. She forced herself to stay, whispering into her recorder, "This is a test, a hallucination, my fear response." The shadow moved. Her breath caught as it stepped closer, the shape shifting like smoke. "This isn't real," she repeated, her voice trembling. But the figure leaned down, so close she could feel its presence. "You made me," it whispered. The lights flickered back on, and the room was empty. Lila tried to rationalize it as a stress-induced hallucination. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something had been there. Her brain, trained to see threats in the dark, had created a monster, hadn't it? She reviewed the lab footage the next day, hoping to confirm her theory. But when the lights had flickered, the camera had captured something. A shadow, tall and still, in the corner of the room. Science explained fear as an evolutionary survival mechanism, a way for the brain to protect us from predators. But what if fear didn't just reveal threats? What if sometimes it created them? Lila stopped working late after that. Some questions, she decided, didn't need answers.